Morning YouTube, Rick the Welder coming back at you. I've been gone for the last couple of weeks. I've been off working at the Howe Sound Pulp Mill on the Sunshine Coast of BC, doing a whole bunch of TIG welding there, and it's been a lot of fun so far. Thankfully, I've got the weekend off, and I'm glad to be home and glad to be back in the garage. You guys may remember from the end of the stereo install, I had purposely left the door skins off of the truck, and today's the day I'm going to tell you why. The biggest hassle I find with driving a full-size truck is reaching that passenger side mirror and getting it in just the right spot so I can actually see what's going on behind me. And so today I'm going to take the first couple of steps in rectifying that problem with the installation of some new power mirrors. The mirrors that I've got are from a 94 to 97 Dodge Ram pickup that I bought off of eBay. They're very similar style, and I'm hoping that everything's going to line up quite nicely. First step is going to be removing the old mirrors from the truck, so let's get started at that and we can compare the old with the new. Okay, tools you're going to need to remove the Dumbo style mirrors from your truck. A T20 Torx head bit and a 10mm socket. Now I know it's weird, it's an American truck, so you'd think that it would all be standard fasteners. For whatever reason, I don't really know why, vehicles in the 80s sometimes have a little bit of a crossover where half the fasteners are metric, half of them are standard. So be aware that you can come across some metric fasteners. You don't want to start stripping stuff because it's just going to create a whole pile more work for you to try to repair them or replace them later on. With any luck, this is just going to be a straight swap over with the new mirrors, but we won't know that until it's off the truck, so let's go.
Just doing my thing. Just doing my thing.
So when I got these mirrors, I noticed that they were very nicely packaged in these protective bags. And you know what? In all honesty, for some made in Taiwan stuff, actually seems like pretty decent quality. You can see the chrome is quite good. Whether that's going to hold up in the weather, time will tell. I also noticed that they put on little protective bits to make sure that all the parts and pieces that normally would break off or scratch are all nice and protected. So you know what? Good job on that. For those who are interested in doing the same kind of swap over, there is the part number for the mirrors. As I mentioned, I got them off of eBay. They cost me around $65 US for the pair plus shipping. All in all, so far, I think it's going to be a pretty good deal. So, much like standard power mirrors, they've got a 3-prong plug. You've got one common connection. You've got a connection for the right and left movement, and another connection for the up and down movement. Basically, the way it works is that the switch will reverse the polarity. So you'd have a common connected to the right and left. When the switch is activated, it would switch polarity back and forth depending if you want to move left or right. And the same for the up and down motion, right? Same connection, just reversing the polarity. As far as the switch is concerned, went to the local junkyard and got a multi-direction switch with the harness from, I believe it was an 89 Buick Century. This is going to be the best one that I've found that's going to fit those door cards and look as factory as possible. And really that's the name of the game, is, you know, with any type of resto mod, is to try to get as much new technology as you can and to make it look as if the factory intended it to be that way. Now, as far as the mirrors are concerned, the only part that I'm actually going to be using is the main body of the mirror and the stem. The new mirror has been disassembled, and one thing that stands out right away is that the length of the stem on the new and the old are considerably different. So you can see just by where the wear marks are here, there was this much of the mirror stem that was engaged in the mount. Obviously I'm not going to get as much with the new one. We'll see. I'm going to try to get it so that they're sticking out about the same amount with only this much of the new stem engaged. If it ends up being a little bit too floppy or whatnot, I may have to take this apart and either weld on an extension or figure something out down the line. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. What I did is I also got my set of calipers and measured the actual diameter of the stem to see if it would work with the mount that's on the truck. So the new one measures out to 19.11 mil, and the old one measures out to 19.06 mil. So that equals out to a grand total of I'm not going to worry about it. If there is any little bit of difference, the new one did come with this little rubber bit to wrap around the stem just to create a little bit of friction. The old one still has it on the mount on the truck. So for the time being, I'm going to take this, do a dry fit on the truck, and hope for the best. Well, I've got to say, I am pleasantly surprised with the way that looks. That is pretty much factory. Let's take a quick look over at the other side for comparison. I've already got that plate loose, but you can see it's pretty darn close. Side to side comparison. Now, I did take off that bracket from the door in order to feed that wiring through the bottom. Something to be aware of for all you guys that are going to be trying this yourselves is be very, very careful. On the inside of the door, get a light in there, you can see that there is one reinforcing piece and just barely see the bolt hole there. When you're putting that bracket back on, make absolute sure that you line up that bolt hole and get that bottom bolt back in. If you don't, what's going to end up happening is that mirror is going to be flopping around and it will bend the living hell out of all that sheet metal around the door. The only concern that I've got is, as I had mentioned, the stem of the mirror is shorter, so it's only just barely engaged into the tensioner on that bracket. So whether that's going to create a problem down the road, we'll have to see. Once I get final fitment on there, I'm going to see if in fact it will work or if I'm going to have to extend that stem somehow. So I'm going to tear this back apart and let's take a look and decide where I'm going to drill that hole in order to feed the wiring through to the inside of the door. So what I've done here is I've marked the edge of the window track that extends all the way down into the door and provides stability for that window. As well, I got to be careful, there is a spring from the vent window that comes down here. So after taking a look, best spot available is going to be right there. What I'm going to do is take a small drill bit, drill a pilot hole, and then get a step bit which will widen the hole out as I go. Once I've got that pilot hole drilled, then I'm going to take this entire bracket off the truck, put some masking tape over top of the hole that I'm going to drill to avoid chipping the paint, and start opening up that hole a little bit bigger. Now, once that hole is done, I've got this nice selection of grommets in various sizes. I'll choose the correct one that will fit the application best, and that'll just protect the edges of the wires over time. As the truck moves and everything jiggles, it's not going to ruin any wiring. All right, moment of truth. Once we get this first hole drilled, there is absolutely no turning back. As nerve-wracking as that was, holes drilled, grommets in, and I think it looks fantastic. A couple of helpful tips for you guys. If you get a good set of calipers, that makes this job a whole lot easier sizing the hole to the grommet. All you'd have to do here is on the inside edge of the grommet, get your calipers. In this case it reads 9/16 of an inch. And on your step bits, they will be labeled as 9/16. I drill down to that. It's the perfect size hole. Also, what you want to do is once that hole is drilled, as you saw, I had some masking tape on there just to avoid chipping any extra paint on the door. Get a small, very fine file and just very gently file the inside edge, because you'll probably end up with a little bit of a burr on the back side. And don't forget to seal that edge that you drilled with either some little model paints work well. nail polish, just anything just to seal it up so you don't want raw metal because it will start to rust over time. Now that the hole's drilled, all that's left on this side is to mount the bracket back on, pop the mirror back in, of course repeat it on the passenger side, and then we can start looking at some wiring.